the pop culture field, and you will.
Tell me, what is the worst injury you've ever had? Have you ever broken a bone? Have you ever, lost an arm and got it reattached? Obviously, because you have both here.
I wish, man. That actually sounds kind of cool. I would love to have like a cool cybernetic implant, like Will Smith from iRobot.
Oh,
But
yeah.
or maybe even like Winter Soldier, like have a whole arm that's adamantium or sorry, vibranium. Anyway, no, I think the worst injury I've ever received was I'm trying to think about it. I've never broken a major bone, but I broke my toes. I've broken some of my toes, And that's like one of you think you're a man, you think you're tough, and then
Break a toe, dude.
you break a toe and you're like down on the ground, you're crying,
Yeah.
and
You're
I broke
limping
my
for days.
broke my ankle in dance class. Uh,
It's a
which is
dangerous environment.
hey man, you know how it is.
I do. That's what I'm saying. If you thought I was joking, I'm not.
But I think that's the biggest injury I've had. What about you?
I've broken a couple fingers, couple of toes. I fractured my pelvis one time,
Oh my
and
god.
that was almost a career ender. So that was scary. Yeah, it's called an areolis fracture of the pelvis. And if once I joined the military and started learning about like battlefield trauma, like shooting somebody in the pelvis is one of the most gnarliest ways you can take them out. Yeah, so like they will not be able to move. There's major like femorals run through the pelvis. Like it is not an easy fix, So
Yeah.
I broke my pelvis off-roading on my quad when I was a kid. And like an areolis fracture is when a piece of bone rips off and is like just held in the nether by the muscle fiber around it. So that happened to me. And then they were it was so scary because like when I went to the doctor, I was like trying to walk it off and be fine, but I just like couldn't walk normally. And they were like, "You're very lucky." Because pelvis fractures, like a lot of people like can't do any, like they were like, "You're a dancer," and I was like, "Yeah," and he's like, "You're very lucky because like there was a high probability you would never be able to dance again." And I was like, and this was just before being high school, wanting to go to the military, so that was scary. No, today's episode is actually about some of the goriest and just bloodiest scenes, excluding horror, that we've seen in pop culture. So we're talking battles, we're talking, action fight sequences, primarily in the action genre.
Yes.
Because we all know horror is part of the appeal of slasher films, and horror films is just the blood and guts. But we've already talked about horror, so let's see if we can, pinpoint some of those action scenes that just make you say, "What the hell, man?"
Yeah. Horror's got its own place, obviously, but there's something about gore in action movies that what do you think it is, Cameron? Why do you think a filmmaker would choose to put like more gore, more blood, more kind of creative kills in their action movies?
Good question, and I wasn't prepared for it, but
you better think about that.
I'm thinking about it, man. I think there's a reason why we watch movies in the first place. It's because I think it's like a safe way to put your imagination out there and make you feel like the best action movies are the movies that make you feel like you're right there.
Yeah.
And they attract all the senses. I mean, obviously, if you're watching movies, it's mainly visual and audio, but you're not getting the smell out of it, which would truly immerse you. But I think there is this kind of taboo that when you think about killing and you think about the atrocities of war and conflict, like that's like you would never want to be in there unless you were like me and you wanted to be in there. But like to the average person, those things are all taboo, and if you can experience that from a safe place that's in your control, like everybody can turn the TV off if they've had enough. I think that's the kind of appeal there. What do you think?
Man, I think you hit something right there. I think that's exploring that stuff. Obviously, there's the more artistic and serious side of things. Like we'll talk about a little bit about Saving Private Ryan, where you want to show the atrocities, you want to show the reality, the grittiness of, watching your comrades get blown apart and die in front of you and in your hands. There's,
Yeah.
it was like an artistic thing right there. There's, like Paul Verhoeven, we'll talk a little bit about his stuff. He's just like a crazy European dude who just wants to show like just graphic, creative, violent deaths. I don't know if I've ever seen an interview where he explains why he does things that way, but every single movie that he's done, it's like to the extreme,
Yeah.
And then also there's got to be this kind of like, for some people, it's like that, like how crazy can we go? Like, wouldn't it be funny if, or wouldn't it be crazy if we just made this like crazy, dudes getting just like chopped limbs off and screaming, like the spurts of blood, like with a lot of Japanese samurai movies and stuff. We'll talk about Kill Bill a little bit today, just the spurting 10 gallons of blood, out of their bodies. So I think there's a lot of reasons, why people want to put like that graphic bloody gore to their stuff.
Speaking of that, isn't there an interesting backstory? And I think you've mentioned this before, but you're going to have to remind me of where like that over the top bloody spurt came from.
Oh yeah.
Hollywood.
Yeah. It's one of those things you just catch on like a YouTube short or like a Instagram thing where apparently there was a samurai movie and the guy was all done up. He was supposed to get sliced and then he was supposed to spurt blood, but then the bag or whatever that he had like just went like it broke and it spurted like all the blood out at once, and it became this like iconic moment to the point where I think a lot of Japanese people, Japanese movie makers are like, oh, that's like a thing to do now, and you see it all over Japanese animation.
Yeah.
It's just like somebody gets an arm cut off and it explodes and it squirts out of there with like a steady stream. Where it's like, that's not how, I've seen some real life footage of like dude getting chopped in the neck, like this hockey player dude. And then there was like a robbery video. Like he's holding it and you can see it spraying out. Like I think arterial bleeds are a little more
they're
like that, right?
bright blood and when the heart beats, it's pumping. So you'll see that that goes with the heart. So if you see that, you should probably move that guy really fast.
Yes. Yeah. He's literally pumping out his own lifeblood.
Yeah, exactly. But we got some really cool, fun films that we're going to talk about. But before we do you think, what is your opinion on this? Do you think seeing too much of like the over the top gory or fight sequences, do you think that desensitizes us to an extent?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's something we should be aware of too, because like, what do we got going on right now? We got Israel and Gaza war, and then we got Ukraine going on. Both these like super big deals at the same time, right?
Yeah.
And with the prevalence of technology, we got drones, we got cell phone footage, we got GoPros. We have access to a lot more death in the media if we want to go look for it than we ever have had.
Oh, yeah, it's right there.
You stay away from Telegram, man. Like, it's crazy. So it's like, and it's like, these are human beings, like there's, I think that in society, we have to try to maintain a certain level of respect for life in general. And then if we see too much of this stuff and it just gets too crazy, then we forget to remind ourselves that like, this is like death is this awesome thing in life. It's a part of life. And like we lose loved ones and people die in horrible ways and we can be very cruel to each other, and so I think the desensitization can happen to where those things get muted and lost a little bit. And you forget how shocking and how horrific actual life can like really be,
Yeah, no, I think that was a very sentimental and honest opinion. I think to an extent it does. Because, growing up, most of these movies on the list here I've seen, before even joining the military, and my first exposure to like ever seeing this in real life, it was kind of like, I was like, wow, they do a really good job in Hollywood of like making this look super real. Like I remember like seeing my first like casualty come in and like just being blown up to all hell. And the only thing you're really missing in movies is like the smell. I think that kind of, once you get that, then you're like, you start to really realize. But I just remember sitting there thinking like, wow, like they really do a good job in Hollywood, because this looks, sometimes Hollywood to me looks like even more realistic then actually seeing it in real life, I'm like, gosh, like that's a lot. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, I think you hit it to a point because like, I mean, obviously people in like the medical field and like people in law enforcement and military, have a good idea and have a good sense of what like seeing death is. So like you get desensitized to it when you're around it a lot.
Mm.
But I think like watching movies does do it to an extent, but I don't know. There's nothing beats, and not this is not in a positive way, like saying nothing tops it, but seeing it for real.
Yeah.
It's a different experience. But yeah, you can. I've definitely seen some people, leave the theater in some of these movies in a way. But I think it all depends on the purpose. Really, video
Yeah.
games don't make school shooters. But
No. Yeah. No. Yeah. No, I get you. I'm with you on that one. Yeah.
yeah, but cool. Let's talk about some of these because I'm excited to get into them.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say knocking this one out, but you mentioned it previously in the beginning. But I think this is one of the most iconic opening sequences in all of movie history, and it's just so well done to really
Yep.
portray like the sense and the feeling of assaulting a beach that is ginormous with numerous machine gun positions and
Yeah.
artillery hitting you all at once. So Saving Private Ryan, the
Yeah.
D-Day scene.
Yeah, man. Yeah. The opening couple minutes of the movie, man. It's so quiet too. It's great at establishing kind of the calm before the storm. And I like how it shows everyone, like the only person that you really think they're like, oh, Tom Hanks. Oh, there he is, but everybody else, it shows these dudes and stuff. And then that gate opens up and just like the first like 4 rows of dudes just get cut
Obliterated.
down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like that, Steven Spielberg has always done, I think, a good job of not glorifying death. I think
Yeah.
sometimes, like we talk about Kill Bill and stuff like that. You're laughing as dudes are like getting cut to ribbons by Uma Thurman. But in Saving Private Ryan, like obviously it's a very consequential and huge moment in history that a lot of people today, fewer and fewer these days, actually went through. And
Yeah.
so I think he does a really good job of really treating it with like this reverence and the actual horror, like you don't like seeing this happen.
Yeah. And I think on that point, like seeing these in movies where you like kind of get a chuckle out. For me, like I know I laugh in the worst moments possible. Yeah, like I could be at a
Inappropriate.
yeah, inappropriate, and it's I feel like it's something that like or just a type of response that just people get, and it's uncontrollable to just kind of pacify their uncomfortable,
Like
the
a
sense of
coping mechanism
it's
kind of
coping.
thing.
So like, I always say like if I was at a funeral, like would have to leave the room because I would like chuckle a little bit. It's like that bad for me. But yeah, no, it's I think it might be like a defense mechanism with some people because they just need to they need to like process what they just saw, and like the best way to do that and not feel, a sense that or feel something that, either puts it off or makes you feel bad or ruins your day is to
Yep.
laugh about it,
Yep.
But yeah, but no, you don't experience that in Saving Private Ryan. It's like oh shit. And I think that's all about the cinematography and how they really did it.
Yes. Yeah, and the gore in this movie, like you say, movies do such a good job of portraying gore that if you should actually happen to see it in real life, it almost doesn't look as real as the movies
Oh
because
yeah.
there's the dude with his intestines out and he's like crying for his mom.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that Saving Private Ryan does really well is that it brings like this really kind of humanity to the deaths. Like there's people that are crying out and they don't want to die. And there's, like the one, like remember the medic dude's trying to help the dude and he gets him stabilized and then he
And
just
then
gets shot in
boom,
the
he
head.
gets shot in the head. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, and like there's that one guy who's like walking around the beach looking for his arm, and he's just like trying to pick up his arm.
Yeah. Shell
And
shocked. He's like,
yes, yeah, just the adrenaline's pumping. Like he knows his arm's missing, but he doesn't feel it, so he's not freaking out. He's just like trying to pick up his arm and go.
yeah.
Yeah, it's that's one of the I think Saving Private Ryan is one of the most bloodiest besides Hamburger Hill. If you want to talk about bloody movies, Hamburger Hill is intense.
Yeah, it's intense. It's intense. So I think maybe a little bit with the technology, like because it happened, it was made more recently,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit better with either CGI or prosthetics. They might have done a better job with Saving Private Ryan. But yeah, I remember Hamburger Hill as well.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one. But yeah, we've talked about Saving Private Ryan so many times. Everybody knows it's Izzy and I's favorite military movie that's ever been made. And if you haven't seen it, you're not allowed to listen to this podcast
Yeah.
anymore
You got
until
to
you
go
do.
listen to it, then you come right back. You tell us how. When do you remember? Can you tell me when the first time you ever saw this scene? Like, how old were you when you saw this?
Good question. It was definitely before I joined. But I didn't like understand the moving pieces, or I didn't understand the like history behind it. Like I had no idea that like these were Ranger, like Tom Hanks and his squad were like all Sec Battalion Rangers.
Okay.
Like now I see it and I'm just like feel a sense of pride.
Yeah.
But because I'm like, oh, like I was part of that unit, like it's alumni, you know. But when I watched it, it was definitely before I joined the military, just because you hear such crazy stories about that movie about like when it was released. Because what, it came out in like 99 or 01 or what?
To
What was
1998, I was a
98?
junior or a senior in high school. Senior high school.
Okay. I watched it also in high school. And I think it was like, oh, I want to get an idea. Because I seen Black Hawk Down. Like, I want to get an idea of like what I might be walking into, you know? And like, it was so intense. But I just remember like wanting to join even more. Yeah, I don't know. It was just like, okay. Like, I could see myself doing that. And I'm like, well, if I could do that, you know, maybe I don't know if it's like an ego thing or just like wanting to serve. Because when you see people get like decimated, there's like like when 9/11 happened, like obviously thousands of people died, and then
Mhm.
you feel like during that time there's that surge of people enlisting
Yeah.
because they feel like they want to do something to either prevent that or to help it in the future.
Yeah.
So I think I got that sense of calling from that movie, which to me, you know, now I'm here making a podcast. So
Yeah, man. I get that response. You know, there's the automatic revulsion that I think a lot of people feel when they see gore and blood and body parts, which I think is normal for the most part. Like it's expected that people would have that kind of it would turn them off to see that kind of stuff. But then there's also the other part where it's I don't know, man. It's like I guess people who probably should join the military or something and get an outlet for it. But there's like this draw to it,
yeah,
to whether it's the chaos or the urgency or the fact that like, you know, like the push, those guys, they keep going. Like when it's all chaos and it's all chaos. It's all chaos until and then they get together and they consolidate and they start planning and organizing. They make up and they push through, you know, it's like,
yeah,
what a Herculean task, you know. It's part of the reason why we call it the greatest generation. It's like they were able to pull off this massive thing back when war was like countries wide, you know,
yeah.
and you're out there for 2-3 years at a time. So I get that urge, man. Or I get understanding that urge.
Yeah. And you mentioned something that drew a thought in my brain. And it was like, you know, people. I also like watching blood and gore because it is 100% reality. You know, maybe not to the
Mm.
extent of like how much they like glorify it or put it, but
Mhm.
you know, it's real life. You know, people, you know, you watch videos, like you said, stay off Telegram, but you know, like there's people being executed, there's people dying every day in
Yeah.
like car crashes and accidents to that nature. And it's like you can't get away from it. And if you're trying to like protect your eyeballs from the, you know, from reality, I
Yeah.
think it's a problem.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, if you watch that stuff, it's like this is real. Like we're all pink on the inside, you know?
Yeah.
Like the one thing we all have in common in this world, like
We all
regardless of
bleed
rich,
red.
yeah, we're all red. We all die. We all end up in the ground. That, my friend, is guaranteed. So I don't think it does any good of like trying to shield your eyes away from it, because then I think you're just living in this like fake world that you're trying to generate. It's like nah, man.
Yeah.
Like we're all gonna kick the bucket and you don't get to choose when.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true, man. So maybe going back to the desensitization point, there could be some benefit in there where you look at it and you force yourself to watch, and maybe more so like kind of the realistic stuff or the more gritty stuff, and less so like kind of the fun action movie stuff. But you're like, no, man, this happens. It happens all the time. It happens all over the world. We're killing each other. We haven't stopped killing each other since Cain killed Abel. That's what
Yeah.
we do.
Yeah.
It's a human constant, you know,
Yeah.
and we can laugh about it or cry about it, but we can't deny that it's out there, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's move on to another movie here. You pick because I set off the pace. So
Dude,
what do you want to talk
I've
about?
been having RoboCop on the brain for a while. The past couple of weeks on my stream, I've been playing RoboCop Rogue City, just kind of game that just came out, and it's great. It's they did it right. It's great nostalgia. They captured the feel and the look of everything. And it's made me want to go back and watch RoboCop, and that's a Paul Verhoeven thing. Paul Verhoeven is this crazy European director dude who, Starship Troopers is one of his bigger ones. I think he do
Yeah.
Basic Instinct, but yeah, RoboCop, man. And there is an uncut version that I saw the rated R version when I was a kid in the theaters because my parents are crazy. And it's bloody, man. Yeah, man. It's that kind of creative death and creative kills that you like. It shocks you, but it also like it draws
Entices
you in.
you,
That
yeah.
entices you. Like, oh my god, it's so bloody. It's so graphic. And then the uncut version is even more so. Like so one of the most
Really?
like, yeah, oh yeah. It's like there's two iconic scenes that really kind of make this point, and there's the Ed 209 demonstration scene and then Alex Murphy's death scene.
Yeah.
And so, Ed 209, it's the thing, they bring him into the boardroom and they have a demonstration where that young executive like points a gun at it and says, "You have 20 seconds to comply, drop your weapon," and he throws it away. And then Ed 209 malfunctions and continues to count down. And he's like trying to run away. And then finally it says, "I'm authorized to use lethal force." And it blows him away with like its 20mm cannons. And it shoots him and shoots him and shoots him. And he falls back. Well, in the uncut version, like he keeps shooting him while he's dead on the table. Like he's just shooting him and shooting him and shooting him, shooting all this blood going everywhere. And it's just like, it's just so over the top. Like you can't turn your eyes away. And then of course, when Alex Murphy, who's RoboCop, when he gets killed by Clarence Bodiger and his gang.
Yeah, that's an intense scene.
Dude, it's so intense. And in the radar version, it's intense enough, man. He's getting all these shots, he's yelling out, he's falling down, they're shooting him and all that kind of, shotguns. In the uncut version, like they literally blow his arm off. Like it gets shot so much that it falls off. And it's just so bloody. And then he comes up to him and just shoots him in the head. It's ridiculously gory. But man, oh man, so iconic. Like everything, there's so many iconic moments in that movie where that have to do with violence, like the way that he meets out Justice, and then his fights with the dudes at the end, the what's his name, the guy who goes into the pit of the vat of toxic waste.
Yeah.
And then he like runs his car into it, and then he comes out and he's like all his skin's hanging off of him, and he's like, "Oh, help me!" And he goes over to the other guy, Ray Wise's character, and he's like, "Get away from me, man!" And then he wanders in front of the other dude in the car, and the guy runs him over and just explodes because his body is so decrepit. Emil Antonowski, Paul McCrane's character from ER, but it's just so over the top, man. And I don't know, in the action genre or whatever, major motion pictures, I don't know how prevalent that was at the time. I feel like we go through phases in Hollywood where we're more about certain things. And this one just kind of like, man, it just, it just blew me away, man. RoboCop. I've been jonesing to watch it to find like an uncut version. I can't find it somewhere. You guys let me know if you can find it anywhere.
Yeah, no, Paul Verhoeven. I'm reading this article right now, and it said RoboCop actor's X-rated death wasn't gory enough for Paul Verhoeven, and this was the scene with ED 209, and it was estimated that, and apparently those little charges for those not, I just learned this. It's called a squib.
Squib.
So it's called a squib, and that's what the blood is packed in, and it's a little charge, and that's what makes it spray. They used an estimated 200 blood squibs strapped onto Kevin Page to literally do this scene.
Oh my god,
that's a lot of squibs.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's crazy. Paul Verhoeven, where is he from? For a graduate, University of Leiden, Netherlands. Entered the Royal Navy. Okay, Netherlands maybe. Okay, just crazy Europe dude.
Just basically. Crazy European guy.
But RoboCop, man. Just will always, and of course we talked about one-liners, or we often talk about one-liners. We had an episode on one-liners. Arnold Schwarzenegger's one-liners. There's some great one-liners in this movie. And they do a good job in the video game of bringing those ones up too. So your move, Creep.
Where are we going next?
We are going to go.
We got a lot of options. It's kind of hard.
We got a lot of options, man. And a lot of good options. Let's talk about the fun side of violence and gore and death. That was done intentionally, right, as a stylistic choice to kind of honor and go an homage to Japanese samurai movies. It's Kill Bill.
I know where you're going. Yeah, of course.
Kill Bill Volume 1, especially where Uma Thurman fights the crazy 88, and it's like that blood spurting thing on purpose, because obviously Quentin Tarantino, he is a student of film from way back, and he wanted to input those tropes from samurai movies, Japanese samurai movies especially, into this fight scene, and it's fun. Like, it's amazing to watch. He even plays the music, the kind of the bebop music, and puts like a fun spin on it. And there's a version of it. I don't know exactly where you can get it, or if you guys let us know out there. But there's a version, like in the American version when it first came out, there's a part in that where she blinks her eyes and everything becomes black and white. And then there's a bunch of action that happens. Well, that's actually, I think they did that for ratings purposes. I think there's an uncut version. I've seen a version of that where that doesn't happen. And the fight is actually extended. It's a little bit longer and everything stays in color. Because I think that it was actually too graphic. There was like too much blood and death and dismemberment on screen, to where they said, hey, can you make it like black and white? So it's like less abrasive, less.
Yeah.
Like,
it just looks like water coming out.
Yeah. Yeah. So that scene, if you can ever find that, it's even crazier, where she's jumping around and doing like the part where it's freaking Zoe Bell, her stunt woman, flipping around and doing like breakdancing stuff on the floor, and she's like swinging it around and cutting legs off. And so it's the violence and the gore is presented in this really entertaining way. It's not meant to make you cringe. It's not meant to make you throw up. It's not meant to have some sort of social commentary or like the horrific of, the violence of man against man,
of the impact of gang violence.
Yeah. It's not talking about the horrors of war. It's like, we're going to have fun, cut a bunch of body parts off.
Yeah. No, I'm actually watching it as you're talking, and like, it's super fun to watch. I'm like sitting here all like good attitude and everything. And you're like, oh, she just cut this guy right in half. Sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's impressive to think about the choreographer, the stunt people involved, the coordination, and just how much planning something like that takes.
Yeah, no, it's a long scene too. This one's like 9 minutes of just straight sword play.
Yep.
I mean, you've done fight choreography in the past. Like, Izzy has an amazing little YouTube reel of him doing fight choreography. And how challenging was that for you to learn?
I mean, it's like anything where there's a structure. You get a basic plan. This is how we did it. My buddy Peter Thomas, who does fight choreography, and he's a stunt man and a stunt fighter in movies. Peter Lee Thomas, you go check him out. But he's been on the podcast.
Yeah, we had him in. Yeah, you can go back to season 1. He's on there.
It's been a while. We haven't been in touch, but he had this vision. He wanted to do something. He just wanted to challenge himself to do fight choreography. So we got a basic plan together and some stuff we wanted to do, and then it's really just practicing it, and then being willing to like change some things too. So you try to memorize these moves, you practice these moves. And then he's like, well, what if we did this? And we had you kind of go over here, or you fell down and he comes at you like that. And you kind of like work it out. And then you have to fit that in with everything. So it's like dancing. We've done dance choreography ourselves. It's a lot of the same kind of concepts because it's a partnership. You're working it out and you got the moves, you practice them, and then you kind of just let it all go and try to be natural with everything. But it's a lot of fun, man. It makes you feel really good to like get the takes down. And then on the day when we shot it, we had shot everything. We had done everything in a gym, in the back of the kickboxing room. And then we go up to a rooftop, and then we change that based on the geography of the rooftop that we have, and so things change a little bit. So it's really a really fun process. And I just reconnected with my buddy Oliver Thompson, who directed that fight scene on the day. He was the director that we had, and he ended up editing a cool cut of it. And then he's doing like the Sniper films, the Sniper franchise films. So they have a great fight scene in the one coming out. I don't know if it's out yet, but Sniper Grit, GRIT, Global Response Initiative Team or something like that. But great scene, very John Wick style scene, long takes, with the camera following the action. But yeah, man, it's fun. It's a lot like dance choreography,
Oh, that's cool, man. Yeah, I've never done that, but I'm open.
You could do it. All that to say is you could do it because you have a dance background, which would totally lend itself to you learning fight choreography.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate you believing in me. But like I'm saying, I'm opening. So if anybody is out there wants to do some fight choreo, let me know. But moving on. Yeah, so that's Kill Bill. Great sequence there. I feel like we are in a time that like superheroes, like we have Marvel, we have DC with Sony, like they're everywhere. And we don't really necessarily get the gore that you think would come with being able to rip a person in half with your bare hands, right? So but I feel like so we have all these superhero movies, but there hasn't been like a whole lot of, pop culture out there that has to do with exactly what I just said. But there are a few that I think have done a really good job of just portraying. And there's an animated, and there's two here I'd like to mention, but let's talk about the real one, The Boys, right?
Yep.
On Amazon. So
and then Gen V as well. I haven't seen it, but I know.
Oh yeah, I've seen Gen V. Yeah.
Okay, you can talk.
Yeah, it has a lot of social commentary on there, but the blood and gore is still there. Okay. So like, yeah, you can definitely. But I think it makes. I'll tell you about it if you want to. But let's start out with The Boys.
Okay.
When you first watch The Boys, when you put on episode 1, you honestly have no idea what you're getting yourself into, and they smack you in the face with it really hard right off the bat.
Yep.
Yeah, and
they really inoculate you very quickly to what you can come to expect from the show.
Yeah. Oh, it's I love the show. And what were you before we even started recording this podcast? We were talking about it. And what did you say to me, Izzy?
Oh man, I'm starting to get to that point with The Boys where I'm starting to think that maybe I should stop watching it because it's so graphic in its sexuality, right? It's nudity and sexuality. You got dongs and boobs and vag everywhere, and then with its graphic violence, it's like. It's starting to wear on me a little bit. I got this way with.
It's starting to make you feel like a terrible person.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel like I don't know, like it's polluting my soul a little bit. Rick and Morty, like I got to a certain point where I'm like, I got to stop. Now, here's the thing about The Boys. I read an interview with the creator. I think he's the same guy that did Supernatural or something like that. But he says it's a moral universe, and if a character makes an immoral choice. At one point, there will be consequences for that choice at some point. And I really respected him for that vision, right? And it's part of the reasons why I still enjoy the show is like the good guys are bad guys if they make a choice, man. And even like morally good choices, like Homelander. Like he is such a horrible person and he's done horrific things. But he's also tried to be compassionate at certain points. He has his own compassion and morality in a way based on the horrible upbringing that he's had, and the lack of like father figures and mother figures who have actually loved him, so I appreciate the show. I know that they got another season coming out and I think I'm going to watch it, but it's why I didn't watch Gen V. I'm like, I got one show with the blood, guts and gore and boobs. That's my show.
You can, I will say you can, I watched the entire season. I started to enjoy it once I got over this hill because like I got it. It took me like a second because, in Hollywood, like everything's super woke now and like all these themes that you're just like, that turn me off to it are just super funneled into Gen V.
Very much on the forefront of the storytelling. Like they're telling you it's not woven into the narrative. It's not in the background.
It's right there in your face. But then I realized I'm like, this makes sense is because it is literally the newer generation of superheroes coming in. Like they're all on their phones. They all do everything. It's like, it literally is a social commentary about the next generation. And like, what happens if these people had like, superpowers? And it's just, once I got over that hurdle, cause they're like throwing all these themes in your face and you're just like, I'm so over it, but then you realize you're like, well, this is what we're dealing with.
Yeah. All right.
So it's but the blood and guts are still there. Actually, the main character, her power is controlling blood.
Ah.
So like she is, she can. That one starts out terribly too. Like spoilers ahead here, is if you don't mind. But I mean, this becomes like a big theme, and it's the first opening sequence, and like she's grown up. I think she's 13 or 14. The one that controls blood, and it's like she's in her bathroom at she's house. She doesn't realize that she has powers yet, because obviously all the parents in the boys like fed their children the compound V that turned them into superheroes, so they were all unaware.
Yep.
A little bit of parental abuse, and she comes of age where she has her her womanly time of the month, and she has no idea what's happening, because like it's not normal. So like but then like her mother bursts in the bathroom to figure out what's happening, because like her blood is like literally starting to float in the air, and she's like, what? And then long story short, she has no idea what she's doing, can't control anything, murders her mother. Her father comes in, murders her father by accident, and like she just kills her entire family.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, and that's the opening sequence to Gen V. So yeah, they all open just right in your face, the bloodiest, goriest scenes ever. But I can learn to appreciate them, just because like I like how you said that it's a moral universe, but then you introduce these people that think they are above morality, because they see themselves as gods, and they see that everybody else should bow down. And there's a little bit of that in the show too, seeing yourself as a god versus just trying to be like a morally straight person. There's like there's a struggle between that in the show. But if you have a second to watch it, I mean, I'm not telling you need to.
Well, what I did
little,
I did watch. I watched I don't know what I heard. I heard it dovetails or has a connection to the next season of The Boys. And I got kind of annoyed, because I'm like, I don't want to like, oh man, I don't want to have to watch this, So I watched a YouTube video that explained the ending of it, and I kind of got the basic story beats and where they end up. I'm like, okay, now I can watch the next season of The Boys.
Okay, you should be fine. I mean, you'll have a couple of characters that pop up in the spinoff, like Homelander's in the final episode. He like shows up.
Yep.
Yeah, and then also Soldier Boy's in it.
Oh really? Oh wow.
Oh yeah. Soldier Boy's in it for like an episode, but like they're in a dream of like this psychic superhero, and he like shows up in the dream, and he's like, yeah, she's been spanking off to me for years. And he's like her favorite superhero, so he's obviously in this dream world as like one of the main characters. I love Soldier Boy. I think he's terribly good.
Oh my god, he fits right in that world, man.
He fits right in. But enough about The Boys. The second one I wanted to get into is Invincible, and we talked about this one, and this has some. Not to mention, as this, we talk about blood and gore. The title of the episodes, as each episode happens, just gets bloodier and gorier and gorier and gorier until you get to the final episode. But they just started a new season. Have you been watching it?
It just started. It just came out.
Yeah, I think there's like 2 or 3 episodes of season 2 out right now.
No, I will have to watch that, because when I first saw the trailer for the first season of this show, I was completely uninterested. I'm like, oh, animated show, superheroes, whatever. And the first 45 minutes of the first episode is totally like, all right, standard stuff, character building. Oh, this kid's going to have an arc. His dad's a superhero. He's learning how to use his superhero powers. Like, and I'm sure they did it on purpose. Like, yeah, it's going to be a standard show. It's not a big deal.
It's following this outline.
Yeah. And that ending, the ending of episode 1.
Yeah. Well, for those of you who haven't seen it, why don't you, spoilers ahead for your folks.
Yeah.
Unless you want, do you want to?
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm totally going to spoil it. It's been out for like 2 years, man.
Come on.
But maybe if you haven't watched the show yet, maybe it'll entice you to do so, because it definitely takes a left-hand turn and is not the kind of show that I thought it was going to be when I was watching the first part of the first episode. But there's this superhero team, much like the Avengers. They're called the Guardians of the Globe. And it's the standard stuff. There's the Batman figure, the Flash figure. There's, the Wonder Woman figure. There's a guy called Immortal, Aquaman. Yeah, all these people. It's the standard stuff. They're all variations on a theme. And then there's Omni-Man, who is a Viltrumite. He's an alien, right? Superman. He's the Superman character. Well, they've all been assembled. They all get called to assemble at their headquarters. And then Omni-Man just comes in and he just starts brutally murdering all of them. And it's like bloody. He takes this Flash type character, and he crushes his head slowly as the dude's like trying to punch him. And then the dude's like hands are breaking because he's punching him so many times and he just can't break free. And he just smashes his head and his eyeballs and brain matter just goes everywhere. And everyone like freaks out and screams, and they all try to fight him, and he just
can't do it yet.
Brutally
Decimates them.
murders all of them. It's just so shocking. And then that's kind of part of the arc of the rest of the show, which I won't spoil, is he totally lies about it. He gets injured. And then everybody shows up, like the kind of SHIELD type organization shows up and collects him and all the bodies. And they're like, what happened? And he totally lies about it. He doesn't say why he did it. And then as you go throughout the show, it's slowly revealed. In the last episode, he says why he ended up doing it, So it's very, very well done. Like he has his reasons, and his son is trying to figure it out too. And his son's trying to become a superhero and not doing a very good job, Yeah. But it was really good. I was very impressed with it. I'm very excited. I'll have to jump in and start watching those episodes, man.
Yeah, no, really, really, really fun time watching that show. Yeah, you should check out the new season. It's off to a little slow start, I will be honest, but I'm hoping something just goes crazy. Unless I'm just severely disappointed for season 2. So we're gonna keep chugging along on this one.
Yeah. Cool, man. What else? We got room for like one or two more, man. If you want to, highlight your favorites.
We can do some honorable mentions, but we have so many here that like I'm open to doing a part 2 of this bad boy.
Oh yeah, let's put that in there right now, folks. Let's do part 2 coming soon. Because I feel like the discussion of blood, guts, and gore is a fun one to have within the timeline, the history, kind of the general discussion of cinema. Like, what purpose does it serve? Why do we like it? Why are we turned off by it? Why is it getting worse? Like, are we getting worse as a society because we're getting so desensitized with videos of like drones from Ukraine and telegram videos from Iraq,
cartel execution videos.
Yeah, cartel execution, dude.
That's what I grew up on,
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, with freaking Daniel Pearl videos, all that kind of stuff. The terrorists, like propaganda, beheading videos.
Yeah, no, that's
man. Like, where do we draw the line?
E-bombs world. Yeah, it's like that's
E-bombs world. Yeah,
yeah. But I figured we'll end it like we've talked about some TV, we've talked about some movies, but like we know the real culprit behind mass shootings here is video games.
Oh yes.
So let's talk about some great gory video games, and there's one that. I got one honorable mention because everybody knows it's my favorite. Gears of War franchise.
Oh, yeah.
Is so bloody. Like, it is so gory, so bloody. We're talking taking your Lancer, assault rifle that has a chainsaw built into it and using that to literally cut people in half, and blood, and, the blood goes on the screen. It goes everywhere when you're doing the execution, and it's just a really good time.
Yeah.
But I'll leave that one at an honorable mention. But I think one of the video games that is like primarily known and has had numerous sequels, numerous stories, different versions of this game, and it's just one of the pioneers, I think, of the violent video game is Mortal Kombat.
It's the one. It stands alone, man. You're right. Yeah. And it's a franchise that's been around for literally decades. I remember playing this game, Mortal Kombat 1, in like the 90s in California,
Yeah, it's so good, and just, the coveted finish him. And you can do
the fatalities.
Fatalities. I remember, like, even to this day, I watch YouTube compilations of just the Mortal Kombat, executions per character.
Yep.
And they're so creative. They have, and as the game has progressed, they've gotten, more advanced, more characters, better graphics.
Yep.
Like, they just get cooler.
More creative deaths.
Yeah, more creative deaths. And it's just, you've had the introduction of like other pop culture known characters. Like, I'm pretty sure you can play Rambo, you can play Terminator, you can play Darth Vader or something like that.
The Predator, the Joker, Rambo. Rambo. Yeah, all those. Yeah.
And they all have their own specific. And I think that's super cool to be like, hey, how would, if Rambo needed to kill, or how would the Terminator like kill somebody, in this game? And they have their own custom execution. I thought that's super creative. But yeah, my favorite part about the executions though is like, when they punch you or they kick you, they like switch the internal view and they
Yeah.
just show all the bones cracking and like all the veins tearing and the arteries just blowing up.
Yeah.
It's just, as talking about violent video games. Yeah. Mortal Kombat is the best of the best when it comes to that.
Yeah. Your buddy Jordan, Dr. Jordan.
Oh yeah, Dr. Jordan Wagner. We just did a
Yeah.
video together on MASH. I know he's got some very popular videos of him
Mortal
reacting to
Kombat.
Mortal Kombat. Yeah.
Yeah. That was great, man. I can't do Mortal Kombat anymore, man. Like I think The Boys is about my limit. I've seen some of the fatalities in the newer ones, and it's doesn't help that the technology is advanced, that they look so realistic and they're so
Yeah.
creative. I just can't do it, man. I actually feel myself getting a little nauseous sometimes when I watch
Oh
movies.
my god.
Because, like, yeah, what kind of sick, twisted mind must you have to come up with some of these fatalities? I mean, what are you guys doing over there in Mortal Kombat Studios?
Yeah, literally. Just having way too much time on your hands, huh?
Yeah, actually, personal connection for you and I, Noah Fleeter, who's been on the who's been on the podcast. He's a big time martial artist. He couldn't reveal it until recently, but he did the motion capture for most of the characters in that video game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing for him. And he's a very gifted martial
Yeah.
artist. So that was
Yeah.
very cool to have that connection. I saw that as well and it actually beat me to it. But I know I feel like you really want to talk about this one. Like I
Which
mentioned
one?
the game. You kept highlighting it. And
Dead Space, man. Dead Space. Iconic, man. Iconic video game, one of those game changers. Once you play it, you can never go back. And then they had the remake, the remaster that was, I actually thought, a little bit better than the original, if that's were possible. But the deaths of Isaac Clarke in the game, and you could put Callisto Protocol into this one as well, because same creators, but the creative ways that your character can die they're pretty brutal. They're pretty, it's just like, I guess the two highlight ones. One of them is like the little heads that are like with the little squid tendrils, and they grab onto your neck. And if you don't get them off, then they squeeze your head off and it pops off. And then they put their tendrils inside your body and then they walk off. And that's the death animation for that one. And then I think it's in 2, you fight one monster. And if you die, it takes your helmet off and it sticks its like spike into your mouth, and then it continues to shove it in until your head pops off. It's gross, dude. It's so disgusting. Gross. It's just like so graphic. Again, the sick minds behind these games, like how do you come up with these deaths, but there's a standard stuff where you just get like crushed or smashed, or you get your torn apart in half and stuff. And then there's some other ones. It's just like, who are you? Why do you come up with this stuff? They must hate. Was Josh Duhamel, like We Hate Josh Duhamel Club, designed the Callisto Protocol because he's the main character. And it's like, poor Josh Duhamel, man, just getting killed in such creative ways by these monsters. Ugh.
That's great, man. That's cool. But I figured we just ended on that one for this one. We got a fan question. I mean, I keep going back. There were so many good ones. So we'll definitely have to do a part 2 of this.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. There's too many. There were too many we never got a chance to talk about.
Yeah, I'm telling you guys, like over half of our list is still black, meaning like we didn't highlight it and turn. We like to turn things red that we talk about, and there's more black than there is red. So
yeah, we didn't even talk about any of the anime stuff.
Oh man, and they get so bloody,
so graphic,
so graphic. But let's move on to our fan question. And Izzy, who's this fan question coming from?
This fan question is from Luke via Instagram. It says, "Hi, Izzy, got a good debate for you that we often have in the British Army. Oh, thank you for your service, mate. Chest rig and shooter's belt or webbing belt? You just came out with, you could answer this question probably more authoritatively than I could. You just had an equipment breakdown for your setup, right? And that's on your YouTube channel, Cameron Fath. On YouTube.
Yeah, Kick God Cam. Yeah, I just came out with one of those. If you're listening to it, check it out if you're curious about what I use. But hey, man, I will say this. There is a mission. There is a reason to use specific things. And it sounds like, the good old debate. This is old school versus new school, right? Yeah. So all the newer guys wear chest rigs and shooter belts, but all the old guys use their classic Alice webbing. Mm-hmm. They have pros and cons to each of them. I think you can run more sustainment equipment using the webbing belt because it is a lot more comfortable. It's like literally suspenders and
Yep.
everything is around your waist
Yep.
and your load bearing system is with your suspenders. So, and you keep really large pouches for sustainment on there. So you can like, I knew some dudes that would carry like entire survival kits in their Alice packs. Like they lived out of their Alice webbing. Like they kept sleeping pads in there. They kept like their blanket on their back. But then the also question is, well, what are you using this for? And are you carrying anything on your back? Because, the webbing belt has like you can put a giant like sustainment patch on your butt and it makes wearing bags kind of uncomfortable. And like chest rigs and shooter belts might be a little bit more comfortable for that. But it's just a topic of, old school versus new school. You can reload faster using a chest rig than you can a webbing belt. So
yeah,
I think I'm new school. So I'll say, also it depends in my environment that I'm walking in. I'll probably say chest rig and shooter's belt just because I am new school and I can, but you can definitely do things with a webbing belt. It's going to be a continued debate between, it's never going to find its answer. It's all going to be personal preference, mission set, and like just being, stuck in your ways.
Yeah. That's the answer, Luke. The answer is it depends.
Yeah, it depends. The answer is, Met TC dependent.
Yeah. All right, Cameron, that was the question. Now we have a fun little game for you, and I will be the game master for this one. Yes.
Okay. All right. I do not see it, but what is the game?
This game comes specially ordered for you, Cameron. It's called What's My Body Count? Now, before you get too excited, you're not trying to guess how many people Chris has slept with. Okay. A gentleman never reveals such things.
Sure.
No, I'm going to give you the name of a movie, and you tell me if the on-screen body count is higher or lower than a number that I will tell you. So I'll tell you a number and a movie. You just got to guess 50-50 shot, higher or lower.
Okay, I like those odds. Thanks, Chris. You know my capabilities.
All right, let's do this first one. No warm-up. We'll jump right in. This is Rambo from 2008. We talked about this from
There's
Burma.
A lot of bodies in this one.
And I'm going to give you the body count of 200.
200. Okay. I'm just going to say, like on-screen deaths or like deaths that they mention. Just
on-screen body count. On-screen body count. You don't need to get too complicated with it. People that you see die on film.
Okay. 200's a lot of people. But you see die on film. I feel like it's like in the I feel like it's in like the 150s, 170s. So I'm just going to say lower.
Incorrect, Cameron. It is a higher body count than 200. It is 247 to be exact.
Jeez, man.
You got to believe in Rambo, man. I got to
believe in Rambo. Yeah, one man. Yeah, he is true Sisu.
That's right. Moving on to the next one, Saving Private Ryan, 1996. I'm going to give you a body count of 230.
Okay, I'm going to say there's way more than that. If Rambo was, way more, I'm going to say Saving Private Ryan was way more than that amount.
That is correct. It is higher. It's 255 by Chris's count.
Okay, but so Chris, where are you first? I'm not going to ask you where you're getting this. You watching all these and counting them go down?
He'll send us a text while he's editing the episode. I'm sure.
Well, actually,
I'm sure he got them from a Google search because who has the time,
Not me.
All right, next one, Grindhouse. Both films and the trailers. So Grindhouse is Death Proof by Quentin Tarantino, and then Planet Terror by Robert Rodriguez. And then there's also those fake trailers. Thanksgiving, there's Don't. There's all these fake movie trailers by some famous directors that Eli Roth actually made good on his Thanksgiving promise that he was actually going to make it because it's coming out soon. It's called Thanksgiving.
Oh, really? That's all part of the same thing?
It's about a murderer who kills people.
Yeah, on Thanksgiving. Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
So, Grindhouse, both films, plus the trailers, 2007. The body count is 350.
350. I'm just going to say higher because that's a lot of films. And, I know that they be killing people in these ones. So, I'm just going to say higher.
Ooh, incorrect, Cameron. It is only 310. So
only 310.
Only 310.
Off by single digits here. I get how we're playing this game now, Chris. I get it.
All right, let's move on to the epic Japanese war film starring Tom Cruise, The Last Samurai from 2003. I'm going to give you a body count of 500.
500. I'm going to go, because that last scene. There's a lot of folks. And it's 50-50, and I'm doing really bad. So let's see. Because you have the first scene too, that's really big. I'm gonna say greater than, because there's a lot of like big scenes, like big action, like war fighting scenes on that one. So I'm gonna go above.
Good instincts, man. It's higher. It's
Okay.
558 according
Okay.
to the internet.
No, that's 58 more. That's 58 more than I thought. So good.
Yeah, nice, Cameron. All right, next, another epic war film. This one is from the land of the Greeks, 300 from 2006. This is the Zack Snyder version. The body count number I'm going to give you is 850.
850. Well, I know there's 300 deaths that you see, because technically they all die in the end. So that's 300, but then they kill a lot of Persians.
On-screen deaths. Think
on-screen deaths. I mean, you see all the Spartans dead on screen. Yeah, because they have that like top shot down on Leonidas, and it shows them all in formation dying. So I'm gonna go ahead and say more.
Ooh, not quite.
No way.
Not quite. There's only 600 deaths.
Only 600
in 300.
Okay.
So as far as on-screen deaths, I'm sure you could say that there was more off-screen, but yes. All right, last one, man. I hope you get this one right, because this is a
Me
classic.
too, because I'm not doing too hot right now.
Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King from 2003. Body count I'm going to give you is 750.
There has to be more. There has to be more. Because like you see the catapults getting launched at the orcs standing in formation, just crushing them. You see the ghosts run through and kill the entire field. Yeah, I'm gonna say more. There has to be more.
You finished strong, Cameron. It's 863 by Chris's count. So yeah, a lot of deaths, a lot of big screen, big battle deaths. Yeah. So good job, man. You didn't quite. You kind of dipped in the middle, but you came back strong.
Okay, as long as I got that Lord of the Rings one.
Yes, that's really
if you want to hear my nerd theory out, because technically when Aragorn uses the army of the dead, like they haven't gone to rest yet.
Yeah,
and then he releases them from their curse, which allows them to die peacefully. So technically that entire ghost army dies on screen when he releases them.
They're undead until they become actually dead. Yeah, Cameron, hey, I'm going to give you 10,000 points for that nerdy answer.
Okay, perfect. I'll take it.
Well, that's it, folks. That's all the time we got for today. We appreciate you joining us. We hope you had a good time. We will see you on the next one. Join us on Patreon if you want more amazing content. Send us an email through pcfmpodcast@gmail.com, or you can catch us on our Instagram. That's what we're most active on in terms of social media. I check the Twitter too. You can DM us on Twitter as well. I'm kind of taking charge of that one, but yeah, that's all I got. Cameron?
No, folks, we enjoyed you being here. Can't wait to do a part 2 on this. Actually, yeah, final things. Check out our merchandise. If you want to rock some awesome PCFM swag, we have a link on our PCFM Instagram page that can bring a link to our store. So check that out. Supports the page. Also, check out Izzy's brand new YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, the Iz Files, folks. Yeah, check out the Iz Files. It's a horror gaming channel. We're going to have a lot of great stuff on there for you. If that's your thing, you definitely want to check it out. The Iz Files on YouTube. Thanks, Cam.
Right. Yeah, you got it, buddy. And thank you. And take us out.
Cue music.